get too much sun here.
Okay, other people coming in, joining. Hello, Ralda.
Hi, Richard. How are you? Happy New Year.
I'm doing. Happy New Year to you too.
Thank
Hey,
you. Thank you.
just getting started with the session. Joe's got a short time frame, so I want to roll in quickly because there's a lot to cover
Yeah.
today.
Mhm.
Boy, ending 2020 was I think a great experience for a lot of people, and getting into a hopeful new year. I took a couple of weeks off, and Robin and I spent a bunch of time together, but I also went to North Carolina and was able to spend some time with my kids and get chased around by my 3.5-year-old grandson, Oliver. And, all of that, enables you to stop and think for a bit about what you're doing, what lessons learned we learned from the previous year, and roar into the new year with some hopefully renewed energy. And I got to tell you, 2020 was rough, to say the least, on a lot of people. But the more and more I thought about it, there were a lot of silver linings that came out of 2020 that we can learn from, we can digest and discern and focus and bring us into 2021 with hopefully some renewed energy. So and that's certainly the case for me. So I want to roll into some of the things that we observed in our businesses, not only the collaborative but in Mind Body Talent. And Ralda, and this is recorded, so if you have to jump off early, that's fine. But we'll put it on the YouTube channel and in our audio library. But we saw this throughout the year. I think a couple of the big silver linings were that COVID really drove home to a lot of people, patients and practitioners and caregivers, that frankly, conventional medicine didn't have a lot to offer in that. And we certainly saw out in social media, we saw in our work with our clients, we saw in our discussions with friends and family members that so many people have gone through this experience and realized, wow, the best possible thing I can do is work on my immune system and bolster, how my body handles things like not just COVID, but other chronic illnesses and that kind of thing. And we saw a massive wave of awareness, and all you have to do is look out on social media, talk to family and friends, talk to your colleagues, and as I've discussed before, we're kind of in a unique position in that we're talking every day of the week with healthcare professionals all over the country in all disciplines, in all geographies. And so we're able to we have this kind of forest for the trees view of what's going on, what people are talking about. And universally, we're seeing this wave of transition from reliance on conventional medicine and reliance on the pharmaceutical or surgical answers to our illnesses over to more responsible healthcare and more responsibility on the part of the patients to take control of their own healthcare and team themselves with professionals like you who can guide them through, and a much more collaborative approach between the patients, the practitioners, the health coaches, and the other ancillary providers of services in the industry to arrive at better prevention of illness and chronic disease, better diagnosis, better treatment, better sustained health over time, because there's a better understanding of how our bodies work. And I know with this group, I'm singing to the choir. But to us, that really arrived at a hopeful view of how we can come out of that, the year of 2020 with all those lessons learned, see these silver linings in the cloud and use them to our benefit and the benefit of our practices and our patients, to drive better healthcare overall. And that's been our mission all along. That's our mission in Mind Body Talent. Our mission in the collaborative is to drive and fuel revolutionary change in our healthcare, so for everybody involved, for people's careers as well as for the patients. And I'll tell you, as I thought about the collaborative and what I've learned this year, and the things that have impacted me personally and my family in our health journey. Robin and I have been going through Dr. Dunn's protocol for, I think we're 3 or 4 weeks into it now. And then a couple weeks into that, we learned about the CERT diet from Dr. Ernst, who's another practitioner in the collaborative. You probably know of him or have seen some of his work as well. And so I got to tell you, this fallacy that's promoted by the conventional medicine industry and the pharmaceutical industry, that holistic approaches to healthcare are iffy, they're long-term, you never know if they're going to work, that kind of thing. Those are absolute lies. Because I'll tell you from firsthand experience, Robin, me, our daughter Sophia, all started in Dr. Dunn's program, in her protocol, in the epigenetics protocol program. Within days, we were feeling significant difference. And now, 3 or 4 weeks into it, I got to tell you, I'm feeling better. I mean, God graced me with not a lot of health problems, but I'm 61 years old. I've got chronic pain. I've got sleep issues, that kind of thing. But I got to tell you, within days, and it's sustained itself over the last 3 or 4 weeks. I've got better energy. I'm sleeping better. I'm running. I'm a runner, so I'm running like I did 20 years ago. I've got better clarity. I've got better focus. My mood is better. I mean, there's literally nothing across the board that isn't better, and that started just within days. So and now I got to chalk that up to the lessons that I've learned in this collaborative. It's quite possible that I've given our work, I would have probably tripped over some of those things over time, but it certainly accelerated my education and my practice of those things in my own healthcare life and journey. And that, so as we go into this year with the programs that we're going to continue to roll out in the collaborative, that to me is our renewed and focused mission. Our mission hasn't changed, but for me, it's getting much more focused on how do we drive and fuel this education of patients, this education of patients to get us past this, get us into post-pharmaceutical healthcare. I guess I'm writing a paper on that subject right now, but get us out of this mode that we've been in for the last 60 or 70 years, and down a path to that brings in the ancient wisdom that the world has known for hundreds or thousands of years, that got largely discarded with the shift to pharmaceutical science and all the marketing and all the propaganda that went along with that, and get us back to a point where we're leveraging the ancient wisdom, bringing that and connecting in with the newest science and technology, and delivering those kind of results to our population. Because, I mean, I'm going to be very blunt. We're in a war with frankly, the pharmaceutical industry. and all they're putting out there, and the stranglehold that they've got on conventional medicine doctors, and the stranglehold that they've got on the insurance industry and the federal government. And I don't know where, I'm not opposed to people making money, but I'm certainly opposed to people making money in profit and creating chronic illnesses and diseases and perpetuating the kind of things that have been built and perpetuated over the last few decades. So to me, that's the focus of the tightening of our focus of our mission this year, is to define and execute post-pharmaceutical healthcare. And what does that mean? What does that mean for everybody in the collaborative? What does it mean for the people that we touch out in our networks? And what does that mean for our patients? And what makes us so hopeful about it is we're seeing it day to day to day as we work with practitioners, as we work with practices all over the country. More and more people are getting this, and more and more patients are getting it, and they're getting impatient and frustrated with the conventional medicine industry that has failed them so horribly. So, those are the things that were bopping through my mind as I was getting, playing cops and robbers with my grandson and having some time to think about the work that we're doing and the impact that it's having in careers and in this community. So with all of that in mind, over this month, we're going to be rolling out a number of new programs and initiatives, some of which that I think will frankly blow your mind, in terms of ways that you can leverage our work together and leverage the collaborative to enhance your career and enhance your practices and enhance your work, regardless of whether you're on the front lines as a healthcare practitioner or whether you have ancillary products or services like we do. I mean, Robin and I are not frontline people seeing patients, but we're certainly right behind the front line as a support system, providing things through our company, Mind Body Talent, and providing things through the collaborative to arm you with folks. And there are a lot of other people in our network. There are a lot of other people in the collaborative that are like that as well, that have great ancillary products or services that can keep driving this mission. And there are a few of these programs. We're actually having some really important meetings this week. Hopefully by Friday or in next week, I'll be able to announce some of the initial things to you. But all I wanted to say is, I'm coming in this thing with I've always had a lot of strong energy around this, but I'm coming in with, I guess, a renewed focus and more energy to drive this thing forward and utilize our community and get you to utilize our community and leverage it to the benefit of your work and the patients that we all serve. So, again, whether you're listening to this live or whether you're listening to it recording afterward, I would challenge you on a couple of things. One, figure out, like we have, how do you look into the resources in this community and leverage them to your best ability? And, one of the things to think about, and we've set this thing up as a way for you to leverage what you're doing, your personal brand, your professional brand within whatever kind of practice you're working in or whatever kind of company that you're working in is so much better served by connecting yourself into a larger mission like what we're doing. Because if I'm just selling my services or promoting my services or talking about my services to somebody, there's always kind of the element of, oh yeah, they just have something to sell me. And that doesn't, we could have the greatest products in the world, but when you're communicating like that directly to a prospective, client or customer, there's always this, oh yeah, they're just trying to sell me something. But when you're doing that under the umbrella of a mission like we're on, to revolutionize healthcare and drive this, forward in that way, you can leverage the Practice Experts Collaborative in a way to communicate your brand from an entirely different direction. And people say, wow, that's different. That's something we can really leverage. And so those are some of the programs we're going to be rolling out this month to better enable you to do that and expand your community within our community, and expand your brand and enhance your brand within the resources that we're providing to you. I think, anybody I bring in and tour through the collaborative, one of the first things they say is, wow, I can't believe how rich this thing is in terms of the resources, the research capabilities, the libraries, all the things, the members, and the diverse, groups of members that we have in here. And so, our whole purpose here is to bring those to you, put them in one place so you can tap in here and use whatever resources you can to enhance this field of healthcare. So that's kind of, my pent up opening and rant after not being able to speak with you for a few weeks while we were gone over the holidays. But I would love to kind of like open up the mics and hear your perspective on not only what did you get out of this strange year of 2020, and how are you viewing your work and practices, and how would you like to utilize the leverage to the benefit of all that stuff? Anybody want to pipe in?
Sure, I will.
Great, Charlotte.
So I guess what I've seen is, and I go with sort of the philosophy that if you don't look for the silver lining, then any sort of pain or suffering you went through is sort of a waste. And just looking for the lessons. And what I found is I teach yoga in addition to being a health coach. And so many people have been coming to yoga to through Zoom classes to connect through community and also reduce anxiety and just a place to help land. So, and I feel like the questions that I'm getting from the people who show up are about, what can I eat? What can I do? And it's amazing the effect that stress has on your immune system. And so I found that people are much more interested in taking responsibility for their own health as well. Maybe they're not able to, go to their annual physical just because of, and there's a lot of standard medical procedures that they might be delaying. So I found that, people are just becoming more interested in taking ownership for their own health. And I guess on the side of, how do I see the collaborative, helping? I really don't know. I guess I'm looking forward to, learning more about how the collaborative helps with promoting, whatever it is that we have.
Good. Well, I'm hoping that some of the things that we have in mind to roll out will do exactly that. As I was listening to you, I was thinking, that's, if I think back 4 or 5 years ago, that's kind of how I was thinking. So, I always knew kind of the basics that everybody says to you: eat right, get sleep, exercise, blah, 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 and as much as I investigated myself, okay, what vitamins should I be, what supplements should I be taking? What vitamins should I be taking? How do I get better sleep? That kind of thing. It was frankly, twisted in a knot or a very, dense cloud of like, how do I figure this out? And the more I researched, the more so I'll tell you what broke it free for me is to be able to spend time with folks like you in the collaborative and talk with Dr. Dunn, for instance. I'll use her as as an example since I'm in the middle of her program right now. But, what I learned from her and going through her program is, it's not just enough to say, oh, I know I need to get vitamin D. I need to spend some time out in the sunshine and that kind of thing. in working with her, you get in to see, okay, when she runs your genetic profile, she can see your ability to process vitamin D is blocked genetically. Um, so so she's able to then go in and say, all right, and I'm just using vitamin D as an example, right? So but this is across the board. What she was able to do with us is say, all right, with each of us, because we had the benefit of three of us going through it at the same time, so we could see it, not just for ourselves, but with each of us is, what particular things were our bodies and our genetics either preventing or enabling in terms of these things. And then she was able to say, look, here's the set of supplements that you should be on to address those specific issues for the next 90 days. And that's the thing that cleared that fog for me. And I've been thinking a lot about that. I mean, without that kind of knowledge and without that kind of science, we all risk, at the very least, going to to whatever our chosen vitamin store is, and buying a set of expensive supplements and creating a lot of expensive pee that at the least may not be doing the right things for your body. At worst, it may be doing damage to your body when you think you're taking a vitamin or a supplement, or for your benefit. So having that kind of knowledge, and the kind of knowledge that the folks in our community have, kind of it, if it enabled me to clear the fog as close as I am in this industry, and as long as I've been researching this stuff for my own personal health as well as for my clients, it really wasn't until the last few months that fog got cleared. And so I guess that's what I'm talking about is and I have the collaborative to thank for that, because I was able to work with folks like you and learn from you and apply it in my own life. And so if we can take that kind of knowledge and roll it out broader and broader and broader, and start reaching more and more patients with it, we're going to turn the tide of healthcare in the way that we're trying to do that. Hi, Barbara.
Hey. Hi, Richard. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'm in a house with 3 different Zoom meetings going on. So it's like crazy. The thing I want to say about this is I'm a practitioner of Dr. Dunn's, so I've done level 1. I'm about ready to do level 2 again. I've been practicing and doing that particular service for 4 years now, and it makes a huge difference. But what I like about the collaborative, like with Charlotte, is when we have no way, because we're stuck at home with COVID, or we have less connectivity with other practitioners, when we get to know somebody and have that relationship, then what's going to happen is we can refer, or we can, add to our own health what it is that we need, where we're missing the pieces. So like Charlotte, for you, yoga, things like that. So I'm looking forward for the collaborative to really maybe help us meet each other a little bit easier, or get to know each other a lot better. That's what I'm looking for this year.
Okay, great. That's great feedback. So so good. We'll take that more into our programming, and hopefully enable some more of those kinds of connections.
What about doing an interview with each of us and having us talk about what we do and how it can help the overall health of an individual?
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. In fact, this happened completely impromptu, but it was right before Christmas, I think. And we had the weekly collaborative on Thursday, and Joe was the only person who showed up, because a lot of people have busy schedules, and we turned it into an interview, like you're talking about. And I mean, she's fantastic on her feet and a fantastic speaker anyway. So it really turned into a powerful interview about health coaches and her approaches to things and how she's addressed challenges. So yeah, I think you're right. More and more interviews like that out there about your aspect of the profession, how you work, how you relate to other practitioners, and how you're ultimately benefiting patients. I think that's a great idea. Um,
So Richard, you were on my Real Raw Open, right? Where we
yeah,
had all the people. I'm doing those for healthcare practitioners,
good.
coaches, doctors, and I would love to pull PEC members onto that. Several of us from my community, Ralda and some other people, are on here. That's, so I would love. It's Barbara, it's kind of like well, how would you describe it, Richard? We get together. It's kind of like in a game show format. There's judges, there's role players, there's contestants. You get a chance to introduce yourself.
Dr. David, are you doing a lot of COVID testing and frontline
Is
stuff
that
right now?
yours,
Oh,
Richard?
let me mute. Robin started another call in here. Hold on.
Okay. So we basically get together and I would be the host and there would be a panel of people and you get to introduce yourself, tell where you're from, a fun fact about yourself, and then you get to role play a call, just a hello to yes call with some big ask that you have in the world. So maybe you want to partner with another practitioner to do a program or get on their stage because they're holding a big event and you'd like to be a speaker. Whatever that is, you want to talk to Reed Tracy because you want your book on Hay House. Like whatever that conversation, that big conversation, that big ask is, you role play that. And then we give feedback. And it's just really fun. It's just a different way to network. It gives everybody the spotlight for 3 to 5 minutes in a call. And then we all exchange information. And it does it in a fun way, but it's a really interesting way to collaborate and just learn to have some of those conversations in integrity, not salesy, not pitchy, just, yeah. And it's just really fun.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's got me thinking maybe we do roll something like that into what we're doing here, because it's like the old elevator pitch thing, figuring out what your elevator pitch is, but you're doing your elevator pitch in a group of people where there's no judgment. There's no, kind of like you just get to play this out, and it is a fun way to hear how people respond immediately to this elevator pitch and give you live feedback within those 3 or 4 minutes that you're doing that about
I've been to
how to improve it.
yeah, I've been to a ton of networking events and you end up like not really making good connections and you don't get to talk to everybody and you get cornered with one person and like it's not optimal. So this is, I mean, and even if you were going to take 10 people out to like dinner to try and have connection, you only get to talk to the person to the right and left of you. Like this way you get to see everybody and you get to all share and you get fantastic feedback because you're all on the same mission. Like at the end of the call, you realize that you're all there to make massive impact in the world. And everybody wants to help everybody else. So it's a really fantastic platform. And I would love to, I've stepped into doing more of that. And that's, I mean, our Thursday at 3 Q&A that we're doing, we're rolling everything in. I'm trying to merge everything this year to have the most impact. And I think PEC would be a wonderful addition, to merge those two things.
Yeah, let's talk about how to bring that in. Let me ask you, all of you, another question. So, are there some examples in which, after you came into the collaborative, you got to meet somebody that you didn't know, like Joe or like Dr. Dunn or Charlotte or Barbara? I mean, and you engaged them, because I don't see a lot of that engagement yet. So how has that worked? How can we set things up to make that work better or more seamless or whatever?
I mean, I have met a few people. I've been able to see people on LinkedIn that were also on the collaborative, and that was a nice way to say, hey, I see you're here. I see what you're posting. I also know we're both in the collaborative. let's have a chat. And it's made that connection on a couple different, in a few different spots with a couple different people. You know, I've talked with Jay Dunn. She's run my genetics through her thing. We've talked about having coaches in that, you know, not just a practitioner, but having the coaches help. Because it's great to have your list of things. I find as a coach, a lot of times the practitioners don't have the time to really dig deep, and they give the recommendations and they give, you know, all these things like you should do this and you should give up gluten and add these supplements. And then, you know, 2 weeks later, the client, the patient is like having stumbling blocks. You know, they're coming up with, you know, areas of friction in actually implementing all that stuff. And the coach is great. It's a great place for us to step in and say, hey, let's help you do that. And we're literally, I have on my list of things to do, Richard, is to get with you and Robin, because I want to connect practitioners with the coaches that I'm collecting in our Thursday at 3. Charlotte's one of them. To have us be able to step in to practices that don't have access to coaches, that don't really want to take the time to say, is this a good person to partner with? You know, and be able to support those practices that, you know, want to have more support for their clients, and you know, don't necessarily want to employ somebody and don't know what to do. You can like kind of add us as an adjunct service to your clients. And how would that look? Because I have the idea, but I haven't built anything like this before. So this is where I say, okay, Richard, you've built stuff, right? You've done this. Like, help me model this and figure out how to get this, and, you know, talk to the practitioners, you know, like Barbara, who's doing this. I don't know what your, you know, credentials are, but, you know, to say, like, what would that look like for you? Are you using coaches in your practice? Would you like to use coaches in your practice? Like, how can we support you?
Yeah. Can you hear me? I'm not sure I'm on the other end.
Yep. No, I
I need
can.
to go outside. Like I said, there's 3 Zoom meetings going on.
We've got the same thing going on in my house.
Yeah.
So.
No, I'm an emotional intuitive, and so I have a very unique perspective of languaging the subconscious and helping people with tools and stuff. So that's my coaching aspect. And then I met up with Dr. Dunn, and when I started adding the supplementation in such a way that it opened up all the pathways, and you're working with all the base enzymes is what you're doing in her program. Once I did that, my clients who couldn't get past an emotional aspect because they're supplementing, they're supporting themselves chemically, they were able to go forward.
Right.
So I see the collaborative aspect, and like even with Charlotte, if I have somebody who needs help with like yoga, then I would have somebody like her to go to and say, well, watch her videos or connect with her class. So this is what I'm looking for in this collaborative.
No, that's great. I mean, and that's exactly, you know, Charlotte and I both, she does yoga, I don't, but we both sit in the space of having this functional medicine coach training, you know, and part of what I see that I do is help people figure out, like, okay, you know, we need to bring another practitioner in here. Like, I'm your coach, you know, but like, okay, well, the analogy I use is if I was training a football team, right? There's a defensive coordinator. There's a offensive coordinator. There's a kicking coach, right? There's a coach that helps with tackles, and like everybody has their specialty, right? The whole football team just doesn't have one head coach. I mean, the head coach has all these sub coaches, right? And it's the same thing in healthcare, right? We don't just have a doctor, right? You have all these specialties and all these people, so it's the same thing. And as a coach, I can say, hey, you need, like, let's hook you up with Charlotte, she does yoga. Let's hook you up with Barbara, she does the emotional piece. Like, having these people to connect my clients with, and being the coordinator that, you know, says, you know, oh yeah, these are the options you might want to explore, and here's some people. Now, they may use them, they may not, but, you know, at least offering the options, you know, as a coach, because we kind of see the big picture, and they're the ones that come to us and go, I really don't, my doctor said to give up gluten, but I don't wanna. They're not going to tell their doctor that. They're just going to nod and go, okay, right? But when they get with us on the phone, they're like, I am not giving up pizza on Friday night with my family. It's just not going to happen. And I go, okay, well, the other 6 days of the week, can we do it? And then when they do that and realize that Saturday morning they feel like garbage and the other mornings they feel better, they'll figure it out on their own, right? So
Yeah, exactly. It was, you just did a
that kind
beautiful
of,
job. You just did a beautiful job of defining, starting to define this new phase of healthcare that I think we're all moving into, and what I'm calling post-pharmaceutical healthcare, because
right.
you know this model of going to one doctor and having that doctor supposedly figure out everything that you need and maybe send you to a specialist occasionally, that didn't work, and it can't. There's too many things we need to know. So
Yeah.
um, what kind of I was scratching my head for a while is, think about that like an air traffic controller. Like, okay, if in the previous model my physician was my air traffic controller on everything that I needed, who's now the air traffic controller? And the more and more I'm into this, the more I think the patient has to be armed to be the air traffic controller, or maybe it's the health coach. But you're exactly right. There are so many different aspects of this thing, because whatever's blocking your healing process, it might be emotional, it might be physical, it might be chemical, it might be genetics. So you got to be able to figure that out and get to what that right solution is. And from my very first conversations with Dr. Dunn, as soon as I started understanding what she was doing, I said, I think you're the lead point of the arrow in healthcare, because if you don't understand yourself genetically, and you don't understand that those pathways might be open or blocked or related to other there is no way to figure this out. So taking just taking some vitamins, or taking some, God forbid, a pharmaceutical drug, or something like that, without understanding all that, is just lunacy. Um, and so it takes that kind of clarity, and that's one of the great things that I see about this community. And that's what I want to help enable. I'm listening closely to what you're saying about what can we do from programming standpoint, or networking, or group events, or something like that can enable more of that to happen this year. This is great feedback.
Yeah. I really believe that with COVID, it's made the patient client show up because they've had to. A lot of people go, I don't want to go to the doctor, I don't want to go to the hospital. What do I do? And I think for all of us who've worked with patients or clients who don't take responsibility, COVID is really forcing them to do so. It's saying you have to be responsible for you, because now you're more locked out of the allopathic model or whatever it is that you're afraid to go out in the world. So I really see it as a blessing and something that can help us capitalize on that ability to help the person say, you have to be more responsible.
Well, not only that, Barbara, the allopathic model isn't giving them anything. Stay
Right.
home and wait until it gets severe and then go to the hospital. Because
Yeah.
I'm getting the calls that, okay, I'm positive, what do I do? And then I start supporting them. They're like, oh, wait, the health department's calling. And they're like, all right, that was, I'm like, all right, I'll hold, or call me back or whatever. And then I get they get back on the line and they're like, well, that was useless. They asked me how I was doing. I told them what my symptoms were. They said, oh, you're doing better than most. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's nothing. They're not telling them anything. It's a virus. There's nothing we can do. And we know on this end, there's a ton that you can do. And, it's finally getting out there, like optimal vitamin D, reduce the severity of symptoms. Like, some of these things are finally hitting mainstream news. But, like, seriously, it should have been hitting mainstream news last April,
Yeah. I got
not
COVID.
January.
I got COVID and I had no support, but luckily I have Dr. Dunn's program, and then I started adding some of other supplements like CBD oil. I got off aspirin and Tylenol and went over to CBD oil, and it did better than the aspirin and Tylenol was doing.
Yep.
So there's just so many different things. Luckily, I was able to. I live by myself. I have no family. I'm out in the country, and I had no supports, but I had at least my training with Dr. Dunn and my own stuff. So I don't know how other people are doing it. I really don't.
No. Oh, and literally when people call me, I'm driving to the local health food store or pulling what I have in stock, driving it to their house and delivering it to them because they do not have access. And the local health food store doesn't do Instacart. So like if they need vitamin D, they're like, I don't have that. Vitamin C, I don't have that. And I'm like, okay, like how do they get access? And then a lot of them are like, well, why isn't my doctor telling me this? How much is this going to cost? And you start adding it up, I mean, they're dropping a couple $100s on supplements,
Yeah.
and not all of them have that money to drop. So it's like, how do you do, it's just mind boggling to me, that there is this gap, and allopathic medicine should be saying, we'll cover this.
Yep.
This is going to drastically increase the health of our population. We'll cover this, but they're not. Like, why isn't, instead of COVID testing everybody, why aren't we vitamin D testing everyone? Right? And giving them not crappy D2 prescription synthetic junk. Why aren't we giving them D3 with K2 and A? Like, so it's optimally absorbed and checking, like all the things. Like, it just,
You know what? But you know what? And you're gonna know and probably agree with what I'm about to say. That's not how they were trained.
I know it's not how they were trained.
Yeah,
It was funny when you were talking earlier, Richard. I did a webinar last night on paving the way to true wellness, which is my speaking platform that I'm doing this year, and I'm going to be looking at pulling people from PEC to come and be guest speakers and things. So, raise your hand if you want to be on there Wednesdays at 7 p.m. But the statistic that I ran, it's on, I can give you the link. Let me see if I can pull it because I think I had it on a sticky note. Maybe not. No, I don't. Okay. So anyway, it was in 2002 and 2004, the studies were done on the prevalence of chronic disease versus communicable disease. Non-communicable chronic disease was the number one, cause of mortality and morbidity. And they said in the next decade, it was going to switch from communicable to this chronic disease stuff, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, And I said, isn't it funny now, 16 to 18 years later, we're sitting in the space where we've known this for 16, 18, 19 years, right? With 2021, 19 years, 2002 to now, that this was going to be a problem. And now we are hit with a communicable disease, and all the comorbidities are these chronic diseases. So we're exponentially, add those together and exponentially, we're having a pandemic. But is it really COVID that's causing it, right? I mean, I use the analogy that it's like that star basketball player that's on the court that drops dead, during the championship game, and you're like, oh my gosh, he was healthy. Like, what happened? He dropped dead in the middle of the basketball game during the final quarter. Like, this is terrible. And I go, they're like, but he was totally healthy. And I'm like, no. Basketball just showed us the chink in his armor, right? Like, where he wasn't healthy before. Now, do we, freak out and now basketball, is, the biggest evil thing that's happened to us? No. It's not. We'll figure out what that thing was that set him up Like, what was that chronic congenital whatever that the problem was that we didn't know he had? You know, perfectly healthy people don't die of COVID, right?
Yeah.
But COVID shows us where that weakness that we had previously was and why we were miscategorized in the first place.
Exactly. And I think those are the light bulbs that are going off for so many people as this thing rolled through. And it really put an exclamation point on a lot of the things that we were already seeing, that kind of momentum of awakening among practitioners, before COVID, but it accelerated, I think, with patients more than anybody else, saying, wait a minute, I've got to take care of my immune system. How do I do that? My conventional medicine doctor is giving me nothing to do that. And one of the
Stay away
members,
from people and put on a mask. That's how you do that.
right? So Dr. Babar Guri is one of the members out in the collaborative, and he's an MD.
We've had a conversation.
MD, yeah, and he had a great post last night. He said on LinkedIn, he said, when I was early in my practice, and he said, we got no training on vitamins or supplements or anything else in medical school. And he said, my patients would come to me and say, I'm taking these vitamins. And he said, why are you taking that stuff? It's worthless. And he said, and in his post, he said, now, from what I know now, and he's switched over to integrative, functional medicine. He said, I was just a fool, and I responded to him. I said, yeah, you were, but that's how you were trained. And guess what? There was a whole industry of fools. We were all fooled by the pharmaceutical propaganda about this stuff. And now folks like you are clearing the fog for us and bringing us back to what is true health.
Right. And well, a lot of the problem, and not to say he wasn't foolish, but the studies on nutritional supplements are done on one-a-days, which is synthetic crap. Right? I mean, so if you're doing a study on synthetic vitamin B12 and its effects on the body, well, yeah, synthetic vitamin B12 for 50% of the population, Dr. Dunn will tell you, is poison. So you're not going to get, the neuroprotective capabilities of vitamin B12 in diabetics with neuropathy from a one-a-day supplement. It's got to be a high quality supplement. So they'd rather have you take gabapentin, right, than go get a good vitamin B12 supplement. So of course their studies is going to say vitamin B12 is suboptimal. You need gabapentin.
Right.
Right? Because now they've got you with metformin and they've got you with gabapentin. Your B12 still sucks. You're not doing anything to protect. Now you've got another drug with another set of side effects and another set of deficiencies. Your liver is that much, you've got another pathway in your liver that's being taxed. It's and that's what I want to do. Like, we have to just not just run our practices, but get that message out there. We have to be out speaking out. And if we're not speaking out, people aren't going to hear. And we have to stop being afraid of speaking out because somebody's going to malign us.
The other thing you were saying is about vitamin D. What I learned in level 1 again. Now I've done level 1, level 2, and I'm going back and did the online with Dr. Dunn, is that vitamin D, when you up it, it hits the neurotransmitters. It goes backwards if you don't have certain pathways open. And so you're giving a vitamin D, and then all of a sudden your client is freaking out emotionally because their neurotransmitters are getting hit. And some of the neurotransmitters now need to be supported. And that's what I like about her program, is it shows you where to look, like what did you open, what will it affect? Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be the way of medicine in the future anyway, is to look at all of that. And this is what I like about being collaborative with other people. I'm learning what is, if I do help give a supplement or I do recommend a supplement, then what am I affecting? I have to know that because the emotional aspect is what I do.
Right.
So it's really supportive.
Yep.
Yeah, and as a patient, that knowledge is important to me too, because I never fully knew why I was taking any kind of vitamin or supplement. Now I do. I know. I mean, and because Dr. Dunn taught me through her program, and so I'm on the patient side, same a mirror of the same thing that you just said, and
Yeah.
that's what needs to get out there. So that's what we're committed to this year, is doing exactly what you're talking about, is getting the word out broader and broader and broader, putting a support system in place for practitioners like you, who you can collaborate together, you can discuss together, and arrive at a much better path to healthcare than we've had in the last 70 or 80 years. And so that's what's so exciting to me. Anyway, we're coming up on the hour. I know, I appreciate you coming and spending, some more time with us. You've all got busy days, and but it's a very, very exciting time. I don't want to downplay, the seriousness of COVID, all the tragedies that people went through last year, but it really did create a big wave of awareness, about what it really takes to build and sustain health and recover us from these health problems. So just very exciting times. Anyway, so look for some more announcements for us. Join us next week. And Barbara, I would love to maybe kick off the interview thing with you if you want to do that.
I would love that. Yeah.
All right.
I'm actually out at my daughter's house in California till Saturday. So next week I'll be back at my home base,
Okay.
and that'll be a lot better.
All right. Good. All right. Let's exchange some. You got my email, so let's figure out a time and let's do it. I think that'd be great.
Wonderful. Joe,
right.
thank you. I loved hearing what you had to say.
Oh, you're welcome. We'll connect.
Always.
All right.
Let me
Thank
know
you.
when you're back in. You can send me a message on the PEC. And
Sounds
Richard,
great.
I'll send you a link so we can connect later.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.